All right, superstars. So we're basically coming closer and closer to the end of this course. But as we go through it all and you understand the whole premise of manifestation, I want you to begin to think about staying in alignment for the long term because that's really what's going to keep the needle moving in your favor. Right? So we're going to really be diving into some principles, some frameworks, some processes that can literally help you to stay in alignment for the long run. Because you don't want to be in manifestation for 30 days after a 30-day challenge, and then you drop it, there's nothing else, and you're back into the karmic loop, right? You're back into that pattern loop where you're procrastinating, you're not doing anything, you're just sitting and being very complacent and just procrastinating all day, every day. No, that will not get the needle to move in your favor. So you have to be in constant alignment with the desires of your heart, right? So we're going to be going through what we call identity maintenance. You do have to maintain your identity. You have to have standards that you set for yourself and you cannot drop your guard, right? You have to be in a place where you're emotionally regulated and you understand how to adjust your desires as they evolve, right? It's very important to be in the right energy so that you can achieve the things that you desire. Because if the energy ain't right, then alignment is going to be difficult. Right? Now, one of the number one things why people actually fall out of alignment is really because the old identity reemerges. So you start doing the past things, and that just gets you back into a loop, doing the old stuff that you've always been doing, not recognizing that you're being pulled back into your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is your broke zone. It's the zone that kind of stops the needle from moving, right? And there are sometimes, where there are really sometimes where people begin to kind of stop with the alignment really because they become fearful of the expansion. They become fearful of the growth, right? You cannot fear growth. You have to love growth, right? And it may be a scary place to see yourself transforming, but it's for the better, right? Because the thing is, there are going to be people who are going to say, wow, but you used to do this. And they're going to remind you of things that you used to do or things that, basically you may have found fun in with them. The thing about alignment is when you become the highest version of yourself, you may be disconnected with a lot of people within your circle because they're not on the same alignment as you. And that is okay. Now, what other people begin to fear is that they won't have people in their corner like they normally do because you guys are not in the same alignment. If you are no longer in alignment with someone, whether it's a friend, a family member, or whomever, it simply means that you're growing, right? You're growing, and not everybody can come on the growth journey with you because if they're not at the right level of alignment, you're going to grow out their environment, basically, right? So another aspect, which is a very common one that kind of affects people, in terms of the rhythm of alignment, is consistency. If you're not consistent, then you're going to fall out of alignment. So I've had those scenarios. I've, basically been really consistent, then drop, and of course, alignment falls. Right? So you have to be at a place of steadiness with your consistency. And that's why we always encourage doing things that you're able to manage so that consistency becomes easy, right? Rather than doing a whole lot of things and then consistency is hard. Right? So you have to be in a place where you really understand that consistency is key. You cannot love your comfort zone. So if your sofa is your comfort zone, right? And you're sitting on there all day, every day, doing absolutely nothing, then of course your results are going to show nothing as well, right? And you cannot fear the people who will have to end up leaving your environment. You're on a higher frequency, you're on a higher vibration. higher levels is going to require some people to fall off. So be mindful of that. Right? Now, fundamentally, I want you to understand that when your old identity reemerges, this is your subconscious trying to return to familiar patterns. And it's okay. You just have to begin to stop it before it gets into that pattern loop where you're doing the same old stuff. You got to catch yourself and actually say, listen, I don't walk that street anymore. I don't do that anymore. Right? That's not my reality. That's not who I am. Right? When the comfort zone comes in and your body and your nervous system is like at a place where, of course, it wants the comfort, you have to understand that this is where you've got to put some limits, some boundaries, some standards in place so that you begin to fall in those places, right? You also have the fear of expansion. The thing about manifestation, it requires expansion. You have to expand. And as I said, it may help you a lot, but it may also affect relationships that you do have, because if you're in a place where you're expanding and other people around you aren't expanding, you're going to want to leave that space, right? And it can be a threatening feeling to your ego, to your emotions, but you have to keep yourself in check, knowing that this is for my good, right? It's you versus you. It's not you versus your family members. And sometimes you've got to just leave some people behind. It's just a part of the process, right? Now, when it comes on to consistency, alignment is a practice. You know, habits have to be formed, and you've got to be in that rhythmic mood to keep the habits flowing and growing, right? Frequency is necessary in consistency. You've got to be on that frequency where you're doing, you're being in gratitude, you're staying in gratitude, and you're not focusing on the missing pieces to the puzzle or what you lack, but you're in a place where, listen, you're just absolutely grateful for everything because you know it's coming, right? And sometimes I know, you know, your environment, as I spoke to you guys about earlier in the previous lesson, your environment can be a big factor to your alignment and to your staying in alignment, because a lot of times, you know, we spoke about the collective field. If the energy in the atmosphere around you is not the same that you are on, it's going to have a disconnect, and it may be difficult for you to level up because of that environment, but it's not impossible. Right? So I want you to begin to think about your identity maintenance. How are you going to maintain that version of you that you want to pursue? Right? This is the highest version of you. This is the version of you that you want to see being in reality. Right? This is the version of you who probably exercise, who eats right, who has a lot of money in the bank, who has successful businesses, who does the right things, right? This is the version of you who you want to maintain. And so you have to nurture it. You've got to, you know, flourish it, because remember, we spoke about the seeds that you've got to plant, which are your habits. Your habits will produce the fruits. And if your habits are not good habits, it's not going to produce good fruits. It's just that simple. The seeds have to be good for you to get good fruits, right? So at the end of the day, you've got to understand that you've got to maintain the version of you who you really want to see at the forefront of your journey all day, every day, right? I'm not saying that you won't mess up. I'm not saying that things won't happen where, you know, you do something that you said you wouldn't do, but at the end of the day, you catch yourself in that loop and you move on, right? You don't dwell in it, you move on. So here are some practices that you have to do to begin to stay in alignment, to begin to, you know, understand who you are and follow through with that individual no matter what. You have to keep revisiting your goals. Why are you doing this? What is the number one reason you want to manifest this identity? What are your goals? Are they big enough to help you to move? Right? Because you have to be in a place where you understand these goals and you understand what it is that it will take for you to actually achieve them, right? So you've got to revisit your goals. You also have to rewrite your beliefs, right? Affirm these things with gratitude, even when you don't have them yet. Begin to say, I am now happy and grateful, or I am happy and grateful now that, as if it's already done, because you believe it's already done, right? And you have to reground your purpose. Why is it that you are doing all these things? You have to have a fundamental why that keeps the needle moving, just like the clock keeps ticking. Time is of essence, and we only have just a little bit, right? What is it that you're going to give, or what is it that you're going to become with the time that God has blessed you with? Are you going to waste it off doing frivolous things all day, every day, and not trying to make conscious decisions about who you are and becoming a better version of you? No one can do this but you, right? So you have to be in a place where you begin to do a reality check-in on you, right? Am I at a place where I want to be? What is it that I need to implement that will get me to this place? I need to move the needle in my favor, not just today, but I need to move it every day. What is one action that I can implement that will help me to move the needle in my favor every day? It may be a small action. It doesn't matter how small, it will end up compounding. So you have to be in a place where you begin to check in with you, right? Not with anybody else, because nobody else matters in this equation. Remember, I gave you this simple formula. It's me, myself, and I. Who is me? Me is the mentor. You've got to be a mentor to you. Don't look at anybody else to become your mentor. You've got to guide you. You've got the power, you've got the capacity to guide you. Mentor begins with me. Me. You guide you. That's the me. Then you've got myself, which is the investor. This is where you turn your brain into that investor capacity, so that you not just invest in the stock market and those things, but you invest in knowledge to make you better. Because if you can't do that, then everything else around you will become better, and you'll be stuck at ground level or ground zero when everybody else is going higher on the elevator. Your goal is to invest in knowledge, invest in habits, right? Remember, investing requires you to be planting seeds. Your habits are seeds that you're planting. Become the investor over your life. So you're the mentor, you're the investor. So me, myself, and then I, who remembers what I said I is? That's the executor. You've got to execute. So work on your execution. Don't just have all the plans in your head and never execute. Become the executor. Find a system that you can implement to make the execution far easier, right? Because sometimes execution can be difficult, but can you create a rhythm? Can you create a routine? Can you create a cue that will allow you to execute effortlessly, right? Because remember, fundamentally, I tapped on the brain a bit, which is the supercomputer up here. It can be your biggest enemy, right? This brain of yours, you've got to learn how to control it. And controlling it requires you to be at a level where you understand that, listen, you're in charge. Not anybody else, you're in charge, right? So because you're in charge, you will begin to do the check-ins on you, so that you know that you're maintaining the identity that you want to manifest and nothing else, right? You're not who your friend says you are, or who your brother says you are, or your sister says you are. You are who you says you are, right? You are who God says you are, right? Because as I've explained, the vision that a lot of us have, it's not just planted in our minds just out of nowhere randomly. It's given to us by God. And that means you have to be in a place where you understand who you are and whose you are, that you know that you already have been given dominion and power over all things pertaining to life and godliness. So go execute knowing that you got this, right? You have to be in a place where you do the groundwork, you know your purpose, you know your why, and you follow through. Because this is on you. It's not on anybody else. Don't point a finger. The finger is pointed back at you. It's on you, right? So I need you to look at the weekly identity maintenance, because you have to begin to think, you have to begin to act, you have to begin to feel like the version of you who already exists, right? Who already is the desired version of you. You have to do what we call goal recalibration, which means that you review your desires and you ensure that they still match your evolving self, right? Belief rewriting, rewrite your beliefs. Your story is not what your genetics says it is. Your story is what God says it is. And not because genetics looks like this, it does not mean that you look like it too. Understand your identity. You're separate and apart from everybody else out there, even your family, right? Because a lot of times we tend to identify ourselves a lot with genetics, and we need to understand that genetics don't power us, but we have control. Take control and stop playing the blame game or the excuse game, and understand that this journey is on you. It's not about your mom or your dad or what they never taught you, what they never did. This journey is on you, right? They could only have done what they knew how to do, but now you know better. So because you know better, this is where you begin to move the needle in your favor, right? No blame games. No blame games. Understand that it's on you. You've got to do the work. Remember, the work starts within, and then you will see that the reflection happens externally, but everything is internal. The spiritual set is the spiritual, the mental, and the emotional faculties, they're all internal, right? And remember, there are four multi-dynamics of the manifestation, right? It's not just physical. We've got the physical, we've got the spiritual, the emotional, the mental. And all three over here are internal. Spiritual is internal, right? Your emotional is internal, right? All of these things happen within before they're manifested on the outside. So everything starts within. So do the self-work that's necessary, right? Do the groundwork, because you've got to start from ground zero, just like everybody else. But it doesn't mean that you can't get to 100 real quick if you do the thing that you ought to be doing to move the needle, right? And that's why there is a lot of what they call them self-made millionaires or God-made millionaires. That's why we've got so much of them, because the truth is you can become really wealthy out of nothing, out of coming from nothing, because it's a mindset game. And if you don't have the right mind, then of course wealth really doesn't belong to you. So now you've got to begin to work on all of that so that you can get the things that you truly desire, right? By being the individual that does the thing so that he can have the thing, right? Or so that she can have the thing, right? So here's what you're going to do for me. Within your weekly identity maintenance, you're going to have a journal. And within this journal, you're going to begin to answer these questions on a weekly basis. At the end of the week is fine, right? And your first question, right, it could be pre-done or it could be post. Pre meaning done before the week, post meaning after the week is done. Either way, you just want to begin to reflect. Reflection helps, right? So your first question is, who am I choosing to be, right? It's a choice. Who are you choosing to be? Are you choosing to be the individual who is messing up all the time and not really moving the needle, just staying stuck for a year in the same system over and over and over again, not becoming better? Is that the individual you're choosing to be? I think not, or else you would not be here, right? You're here because you've already made a decision to become better. And that means you need to write it down, what it is that you're choosing to be, who you're choosing to become, right? Then Your next question that you must begin to answer on a weekly basis is, which belief do I need to upgrade? Because sometimes we hold on to some old beliefs that don't serve us well, right? I've spoke to you about the things that you say with your tongue in terms of, I can't do this. I don't know how. My brain capacity can't manage this. I can't. I don't know how. All of those can be fixed and reframed, restructured into, I will begin to learn, right? You have to be in a place where you understand that it's the mind that you use to control everything, right? So use your words to get your mind on the right path. Rather than telling yourself all the lies about you can't, you don't know how, and you can't be bothered, this is too difficult. Once you do that, that's what's going to be wrapped in your head, and you're going to be holding on to that belief and telling yourself that you can't do this. When really and truly, I've told you that your favorite scripture, because you've come in contact with me, should now be Philippians 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There's nothing that I can't do, right? You have to have something in your belief system that keeps the needle moving. Go have an attitude to go learn that which you need. Remember, you're an investor. You invest in knowledge. Go learn whatever you need to learn to move the needle in your favor to get things done, right? And then the final question you're going to be answering is, what small aligned action proves my new identity? Because now you're looking evidence from what you've been doing, right? So if you say that you're the individual who manages money well, are there any actions that you're seeing coming into play, right? That you're doing that will move the needle towards that identity? That's literally what it's saying. Are you managing your money well? You got to get to work, because guess what? It's time to make yourself a priority, right? A lot of times we've put the light on so many other people in our circle, but we've not put the light on ourselves. So right now I'm shining the light on you. It's on you, and you have to begin to take matters into your own hands, because you have to make yourself a priority. When you are locked in to personal development, to personal growth, you will begin to move way differently, right? And I get it. You're not going to match everybody's energy. And sometimes you're going to make other people uncomfortable with the energy that you have because you're always doing. That's okay. Whoever is uncomfortable, allow them to be uncomfortable, but you keep moving, because that's how you're going to grow, right? And maybe they will be impacted and they'll begin to move too, right? But you have to be in a rhythm. You have to be within a system that keeps the needle moving in your favor, right? So remember, we've got energy hygiene. Yeah, just like how our clothes can be dirty and stinky and they need wash, or energy sometimes need some detoxification. Sometimes our energy hygiene is really bad. It's really poor, and we've got to do some groundwork. Now, I've given you 5 here, simple things that you can do, because you can feel it. You can feel when the energy in the atmosphere isn't right. And sometimes it's not just, I'm not saying it's your fault, because I've said this to you. There is a collective field, and your environment has a lot to do with your energy, right? And a lot of times, if you're in an environment where the energy is toxic, you may begin to pick it up, because energy is contagious, right? You become the average of the 5 people you hang around. And if you're not hanging around the right environment, sometimes you've got to pack up and move. Yeah, that's fundamentally one of the big things that you may have to do, because energy is everything, right? Energy is everything. And, I've learned this in so many different ways, where you've got to understand that, sometimes you may just randomly go somewhere and you may see somebody and you might just say, my energy doesn't take that person. Why? Because you can feel the energy and you can see that the energy hygiene is not at the right place. These things are real. And if you're in a room, right, and the room is toxic, you're going to begin to feel it. It's going to begin to drain your energy, right? And this is why we've got to do these things to fundamentally help us to have, a detoxification of our actual energy. So number one, we've got cord cutting, right? And cord cutting is really the energetic practice of releasing unhealthy, draining, outdated energetic connections between you and people, between you and situations. Because sometimes you've got some really toxic relationships, toxic situations that you really have to detox yourself from. How do you do that? You really have to probably do some meditation, some stillness, some silence. And sometimes you do have to minus yourself from the equation, right? Worst case scenario. So you've got cord cutting where you've got to cut your losses and move on, right? Cut your losses from your past version of yourself, right? Cut your losses from past people who don't mean you well. Cut your losses from terrible emotions that don't serve you well. You have to cut, right? No. Number two is energetic clearing. This is where you do a visual cleansing, right? This is where there are some people who use a lot of what they call the aroma candles, right? So they do the smoke cleansing with the candles to say that, listen, I'm clearing my atmosphere. I'm clearing this, I'm clearing the room, I'm clearing the space. And that's why you'll see that there are so many people who love candles because they believe that the energy that the candles come with are really powerful. So that's something that you do have in terms of energetic clearing. If you don't like candles, you can literally just use music. Music is therapeutic, depending on the music that you listen to. It can really be intentional so that it helps to clear the energy of the room, right? Could be praise and worship. I know for one, I love praise and worship music, right? Then you've got number three, somatic release. So your somatic release is where you do your stretching, you do your movement, and you kind of get yourself into a rhythm of just moving. Yeah, just moving. Probably you go for a walk in nature. That could really help to clear the energy. It really does. That's a somatic release, right? So you stretch, you go for a walk, or you go dancing or yoga, all these lovely things, Pilates, they provide somatic release, right? Releasing stored emotions, and they bring you in a place of clarity and just kind of bring you to the level where you want to be, right? In terms of the frequency that you're on. The other one that you can use for mental clarity, because a lot of times your mental needs clarity. Sometimes you've got to just close your eyes and do some deep inhale and exhale, right? To rebalance your nervous system because you need it, right? And of course, the fifth and final one that you can literally do is what we call grounding, where you tap back into the nature space. And within the nature, this is where you've got the energetic practice of reconnecting yourself with nature, right? You go for a walk in the park and you literally just sit there in the stillness of the green space, and you begin to probably close your eyes and visualize certain things in the atmosphere because you're in a clean space. You have to have a clean space, right? Remember, there is the routine that you can begin to implement where you've got 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes during the daytime, and maybe another 10 to 20 just before bed, where you disconnect from everything around you and you begin to tap into the higher levels of detoxification of your energy to keep yourself intact and kind of release the toxicity of the day, right? So Those are things that you can literally do to release the energy in the room. Now, how do you evolve your desires? Because every day we grow, every day we're in a place where, listen, we're at higher levels, higher dimensions, and the more you grow, you'll begin to see that you're gonna be disconnecting from old beliefs, but you're gonna be expanding. And expansion is good, really good, right? So you may begin to expand because now your soul is pulling you into higher levels of growth. That's fine. Some of your goals will begin to shift. Things that you would probably want, they're probably no longer, right? And it's not because you're inconsistent, it's because you're expanding. It's just like as you go up the elevator, the levels that you begin to see around you is quite different. The view is different. So as you climb higher, right, on the elevator of life, you'll begin to see that you probably shift your goals a little. And sometimes you're in a place where you shift even the people you want to be around because your levels of thinking, your levels of capacity are at a higher level, right? And that's why sometimes you'll hear people say, we've grown each other out. These things are real because you're not on the same level, right? And if you're not on the same level and one is expanding and one is really contracting, then you're going to see that there is inconsistency in the relationship and then people are going to drift apart, right? So you are not changing your mind when it comes on to manifestation. You're not changing your mind. It's really alignment to the highest level. And as you grow, you will align higher and higher and things will begin to change, right? You're aligning to higher timelines. That's literally what it is. So you will begin to have new desires, right? You will begin to reflect on different versions of you, and sometimes that even costs you to be attracted to other kind of people as well because you're at a different level of energetic source, right? And you tend to be, they always say like attract, right? So you're gonna want to be in rooms with people who are in that level of energetic source as you. So you'll find that you want to be in those spaces rather than probably where you originally were, right? Now, to put this all together, I've got this exercise that I want you to do, and I will also be dropping a guided meditation down below from these lessons, as well as a workbook for you to begin to do the groundwork. Because remember, you have to do the self-work. If you learn this and you don't apply, it makes no sense. Application is fundamental in this process. You have to begin to apply that which you have learned. Now, for your integration exercise, your number one question is asking yourself, who am I? Do you really know who you are? Because I do believe that some people are stuck in a way that they don't even understand who they are, and they tell themselves all negative stuff, and that's not who you are. You're feeding your brain lies, and your brain is believing it, right? So right now, this is where you have to begin to tap into your current identity, begin to identify the patterns, the strengths, and the emotional set point so that you can work on them, right? Who are you now? What is your current identity? What are the patterns that you notice that are on loop? They're just on loop, but they're not helping you. What are your strengths? Zone in on them. And then begin to look at the patterns to rewrite those patterns and form new habits, because it's not impossible. It only requires you to put these cues in place so that you don't have to have all the willpower in the world to do it, but have cues. If you can't command yourself, who else will? Right? Who else will do it? You've got to take the mantle and run with it because this is your life. And if you can't fix it, ain't nobody else going to do it, right? So once you know who you are now, you know your patterns, your habits, your strengths, your emotional set points, Now you can move to question 2, which is, who are you becoming, or who do you want to become? All right? This is where you expand your current self. This is where you become the version of you that's next level reality. This is where you tap into the higher dimensions, knowing that, listen, that was me then. This is me now. Look at me now. Yeah? A totally different person. You can do this. It's not impossible. To change your habits, to change all those things that you've been doing, you can do it. Where does it start from? Starts in the mind. Number one thing that you have to use to move your needle is your mind. Your mental fortitude has to be there, and you've got to have intestinal gut to know that, listen, if I don't do this, this is what I'm going to become. This is the path that I'm going to walk if I don't do this, and I don't want to walk that path. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do what I have to. It's just like you knowing that if you don't pay your rent or your mortgage, what's going to happen? You're going to live outside. Do you want to live outside in the cold or wherever you live? Do you want to do that? You don't. So what do? You work to pay the bill. It's the same thing that you've got to do to change it for your generation. It's the same thing. You just have to begin to do your self-work within, work on you. Work on you. And even if it's tiny steps per day, it will compound. Over time, it will, right? So become that next level reality version of yourself. And then I want you to begin to ask yourself, what do you need to release? What do you need to let go of? What habits? What beliefs? What attachments? What emotional loops do you have to let go of? Because sometimes you've got to let go, right? Many a times we've got to let go, but we fail to let go. And that's what keeps us in the loop, doing the same thing, messing up over and over on the same thing and not changing, right? You have to begin to identify the habits, the beliefs, the attachments, and the emotional loops that don't serve you or your family. It don't help you. If it don't help you, it makes no sense, right? A lot of times we're clouded with the idea of something that we do, but we don't even understand that it's not really the best thing that we're doing for ourselves. If you love you, then you'll begin to be able to identify these things and start working on them, right? And this is where you will form new habits and new emotional set points. This is where you will think differently, you will act differently, and you will begin to feel differently about yourself. So remember, first challenge that I've just given to you in the previous lessons is 30 days. Give yourself 30 days with a rhythmic pattern of cues, and you can do it. 30 days. You're not starting with lifetime right now. You're starting with just 30 days. Week 1, get through that. Week 2, get through that. Because remember, week 1 is about understanding your clarity and your identity. Then get to week 2, get to week 3, get to week 4, and you'd be amazed by the end of the 30 days. You'd be proving that other parts of your brain that was always saying, I can't, you're now proving it wrong because you did 30 days of this thing. 30 days. Telling yourself that, listen, you are more than capable of carrying on for 30 more days because you did 30 days. All right? So you start with bite size. If it's even one thing for the 30 days, every day I do this thing. Every day I do this for 30 days, or I don't do this for 30 days, whatever it may be. You'd be amazed, right? How great it is to feel at the end of 30 days of being disciplined to something that you've said that, listen, this is what I'm going to lock in on, right? So I want you to begin to integrate with the highest version of you by working on you, right? The best work is self-work. Because a lot of times we want to work on everybody else and we want to tell everybody else what to do, but we don't talk to ourselves and we don't do the groundwork. So before you point a finger, it's time to work on you. Now, we are at the end of this lesson, but I do hope you got solid value from this entire process of evaluating you, reflecting on your journey, and understanding how to create better systems to help you to move the needle in your favor. You do have a worksheet to complete below, as well as a guided manifestation. You can put that on loop and do your affirmations. Stay locked in on you, because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody is going to come save you and your family. Nobody's going to come do anything for you. You've got to have you. And if you can't have your own back, who else is going to have it for you? I'll see you in the next lesson.